Good morning. One of the pleasures, I get to say, of being able to speak this message that I'm about to speak 4 times is that it's different every time. This message has been different from last night, first and second service, and it's different today as well. I heard something from Dustin just 5 minutes ago that God really kind of shook me to the core a little bit. Is that there's never been a time where our community needs Jesus more, okay? There's never been a time where we need him more. That's why I believe today's message has such incredible implications. This is not the intro that I had. It's different. It just changed 5 minutes ago, but you know, you're looking at the pain in our community, the pain in our neighborhoods, in our churches. High school students getting shot, getting stabbed. You know, young men getting killed. This is happening right here in our backyard this week. This week, there's people that are hurting. There are families that are changed forever. They'll never be the same. They need Jesus. We need to offer Jesus. We are the hope. Jesus is the hope. The church is the hope. People want to be able to come to a place where they can be accepted and loved and hear about a grace that changes everything. Hear about a man, a God who changes everything, which is exactly what Jesus did. They need to come to a church and experience reconciliation. The God who makes everything different. That's why our community needs us. Your community needs you. Your community needs you. Your neighbors need you to provide hope for everybody. That's why this message here today has so much great implications. The significance of it, if we apply it to our life, is great. And I think Paul's point that we're going to talk about, it rings even more true, considering what's going on in our communities this week. So today, we're going to finish up our series that we've titled Revealed. We're going to finish that up. This is part 4 of our series, of our message, the study we've been going through this book of Colossians, through this letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the church in Colossians. We're going to finish that today. But our prayer is that you would have taken that challenge 3 weeks ago, where we said, we want you to go a little bit deeper. We want you to go a little bit farther. We want you to take that outline that you fill out and flip it over and answer the questions that we have for you every single week. That our prayer is that you would have taken that challenge and you did it. You said yes. You've been going through the questions in your own time, in your time with your spouse, in your time with your small group, whatever it is, that you went a little bit farther, that you read a little bit more in your Bible, know a little bit more about Jesus. But even more, our prayer is that although you took part on the journey of asking God to reveal to you this month, our prayer is that you would never stop asking God to reveal to you. Is that this would be the start of something that is forever, start of something that is ongoing. You asking God to reveal more to you. And we went through 3 weeks of this message and 3 parts of this book. And the first 3 parts, when it comes to the last one, it changes. There's a shift that happens in the letter, a shift that happens in the book. And so this message is there's going to be a shift that happens in this message from the other 3. Take out your outline for me. In the first 3 weeks, you see right at the top of the outline, we were talking about what God reveals to you. And in week 1, we talked about knowing God more, right? Reading more, getting on a Bible reading plan. Hopefully you took that challenge as well and you've been reading. I did. And I'm reading more, and God is just revealing some incredible things to me. And I'm in Revelation now, and if you ever read Revelation, it's so good. I pray that you would be knowing more from week 1. You would be becoming more. You would be becoming more from week 2, and that you would be being more from last week. But all that is about what God is doing in you, what God is doing through you, the work He's doing inside of you. But do you know that what happens inside of you has to come out? Okay? That's where the shift happens. And that's where it says right at the top of your outline, this is about not what God does to you or how He reveals to you, but how He reveals through you. This is different. What's inside has to come outside. And so there's been the building up of the first 3 parts of this message about God revealing to you, God doing a work inside your life, but then there has to come out. And so this is the last part of this series, the last part of the 4. The last step is revealing through you. God must be revealed, not only to you, but to everybody else. So that's what we're going to go through today. You guys with me? Yes. God will never, ever, ever stop that process, hopefully. And just like what is done in you has to come out, I say that what God is doing in you and what he's teaching inside of you personally, has to come outside interpersonally, okay? We do life with other people. We live life with other people. And so even in this part of the last letter, Paul talks about how we can live our lives with the people that are on our inside, the people that are on our closest inner circle, our families, our loved ones, our children, our spouses, right? People that are very close to us. But Paul's hope is that if we get the inside right, our inner circle right, it will flesh out, okay? It will flesh out into our communities that need us. It will flesh out to our communities that need Jesus, that need this hope, and they will say, oh my goodness, your life is so different. Tell me about it. Amen. Come on. Yes. So who are these people that Paul calls the inside? And how does he say we should live with the quote unquote inside people? That's point number 1. Paul says we use I call it inside voices. Inside voices. This is going to be the main passage where we're going to go to in point number 1. Colossians 3, verse 16. Paul says this, let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, songs of the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. Paul says this is the main point in part number 1. Let the work of God that you learned about, that you've been revealed to you the first 3 weeks of this message, let it sit there. Let it live there. Let it work there. Let it stir there. Let it take root there. Let it be a powerful work there. Okay? Then he says, as you teach one another and as you admonish or correct each other, or reprimand or warn each other. That language is inside language. God bless you. That language is inside language. Who knows that you can't just correct people that you don't know? You can't just walk around and say whatever you want to people that you haven't built a relationship with, right? But there's a certain way that we can talk to people that we do know. Yeah? There's a certain kind of honesty, a correction, a way that we can teach them. And the people that we built those relationships with, we can talk to them like that, right? We can be honest and transparent with them. This is inside talk, Paul says. So Paul makes a point. He says, this is how you live on the inside. This is how your life should look with people under your roof. The people that know you like nobody else knows you, right? Your wife, your children, your husband. They know you like the person next to you doesn't, okay? Good, bad, or ugly, right? So Paul says this is how we should live with those people. But who are those people on the inside? Who are those people on our inner circle? Paul labels them. And point A, he says, wives, this is what you should do. This isn't me, by the way. Wives, submit. Okay? Not my words, God's, okay? Wives, submit. In verse 18, he says this, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as is fitting for the Lord. Submit yourselves to your husbands as is fitting for the Lord. Language I would never use with my wife, but submit to yourselves. And for the wives in the room, I would say that you too, you as a wife, you too and your husband are a team. Okay? Wives, understand your husband. Champion your husband. Support him in his dreams and his visions and his goals. Champion him as a man. Make sure he knows that he's the man and he is your man. Make that man believe that he can fly. Wives, be the very best wife you can be. Be the very best wife you can be. Then he says to husbands, this is my responsibility. Part B, husbands, love. Husbands, love. It says this, husband, love your wife and do not be harsh with them. And to the husbands, I would also say, you two are a team. Husbands, you two are a team. So love her, lead her, guide her, cherish her, protect her, provide for her, be faithful to her, build trust with her, give security to her, be her best friend. Husbands, be the very best husband you can be. Be the very best husband you can be. This is inside talk. Paul's talking to the people on the inside because he knows that if we get this right, and if we get this right, church, everything on the outside is going to be different. People are going to know why is your marriage so different? Something love between you and your wife is just different. So he continues with the rest of the people, Paul says, on the inside, and that's C, children, obey. Children, obey your parents, Paul says in verse 20. Obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. This is like the easiest one, right? I would say children, obey. Do exactly what your parents tell you to do without mumbling, without complaining, without stomping your feet, temper tantrum, right? Without that. It's about your heart behind it, not just I'm going to scream and yell at you, mom and dad, but I'm going to do it. No, do it with the great heart behind it. Paul cares and God cares so much about your heart. Children, obey. Be the very best son or daughter that you can be. Okay? Love your mom, love your dad. Next, he says parents, D, parents, empower. Parents, empower. In the next verse, 3:21, Paul says this about parents empowering. Fathers, do not embitter your children or they will become discouraged. And to that I say, and we say, don't harp on them and harp over them or build expectations that they can't possibly meet. They're going to be bitter. They're going to be angry. They're going to turn away. Instead, love them. Encourage them. Parents, challenge them, okay? Empower them. He moves on. And E, employees. E, employees, work. Work. And I'll tell you why I use the term employees in a second. But let's get to the next verse. 3, verse 22, Paul says this, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything and do it not only when their eye is on you and you curry to their favor, but with sincerity of heart as reverence to the Lord. Again, he cares about the heart. Don't just do what they say and obey them when they're watching you. But this is why I changed from slaves and I used the word employees. Because slavery then was very different than the slavery that we saw in America. Slavery then, they were treated fairly. They were hired, they were paid, they were housed, they were clothed. And they weren't having these incredibly very hard situations and environments. What we saw from slavery were people starved, were people whipped, people beaten, people not being fed, not being housed. That's what we saw. It was brutal and hopefully never to be lived out again. This was very different than what Paul was writing to in their culture. In their culture, a lot of times you were a slave or a servant, rather, because you were paid, you were fed, you were clothed, you were housed. Okay? They were a servant or bond servant for about 6 years, maybe 7, and then after that time, they were free. This wasn't you're a slave until the end of time or until further notice or until the law changes. You and your family and everyone. This wasn't that in those harsh conditions. This is very different. This is why it changed. And I think the best way we can understand this is to use the terminology employees. They were fed. They were paid. They were housed. They were clothed. Employees, work hard. Work hard. Obey your boss. Do what they say, not just when they're looking at you, but work like you're working to please your master. Work like you're working to please your Father, your boss, your ultimate boss. Then he goes and he continues to, he talks about the bosses, and that's F, employers, care. Employers, care. The managers out here, the business owners, the leaders out here, care. Paul says to the masters in chapter 4, verse 1, Masters, provide your slaves with what is right and fair, because you know that you also have a master in heaven. That already sounds a little different than what we saw in American history, doesn't it? Provide for your servants or slaves what is right and fair. Treat them justly. For the masters, for the business owners in the room, for the leaders, for the managers in the room, do the right thing. Don't treat them unfairly. Try to take advantage of them. Be fair, be honest, be just with them. Paul says there's a way we should live with the people that are closest to us, because, believe it or not, they know us like no one else does. And so if we're different on Sunday and in this room and how we interact with each other than we are when we get home or in the car, your family's going to know, right? Your family's going to know what's real and what's fake, right? Husbands, wives, children. They're going to know. And so Paul says we have to start with the inside if we want to influence the outside. Maybe you've heard the story of the preacher's kid, or the father that was a preacher, and he had kids and a wife, and he preached a great message every Sunday. But when he was home, he was different. He wasn't that guy that people saw in this room. He was different in a bad way. And his kids and his wife grew up seeing that. And you know what happened to the kid? He didn't go to church as soon as he got the first opportunity. As soon as he was 18, he didn't go to church anymore. He left. He said, you know what? I don't want any part of that. That's hypocritical. That's fake. Something doesn't line up here, and I think the church has gotten that reputation over the course of time. We have to be willing and wanting to change that, and I think that starts with the inside of our own homes. The people are under your roof. Your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, you as a mom, you as a dad. It starts with you. It starts with us. And Paul knew that we should set the standard. And if we set the standard, people would notice and they would ask. Okay? Know what is going on in your marriage. It is so awesome how you talk to your wife, how you love your life. How you love your wife. I can just feel it. I got married 10 short months ago. I can't believe that it's been 10 months already. Remember, at our wedding, I'm going to get this microphone over here, because I don't want this to keep going in and out the whole time. Check. We good? So, I remember at our wedding, there were people who said it at the wedding and even weeks and months after when we saw them later. They said there was just something different about you and your wife at the wedding when you were standing there, and even during the ceremony. I could feel that love. I could feel how much you two loved each other. Am I right? I could feel it. There was something different, and people told us this over and over and over again. So they will notice and they will ask, and that will be our opportunity to answer. What is different? What's different? What is that? They said, I could tell the love between you guys. I could tell the love you guys have for God. How gratifying would that be for people to say to you about your marriage? There's something different. Paul says, people will ask, and there'll be an opportunity to tell us, but we got to get it right from the inside out. And if we do, there'll be a ripple effect, okay? There'll be a residual effect. People want to know, why are your children so well behaved? How do you go to work every day with that positive attitude under these conditions, with that boss? And you can answer. Starts with the inside, and it goes, number 2, outside. This is what I call using our outside voices. This is that ripple effect. Outside voices are outside voices. But remember, there's a certain way we can live and talk to people, and how we should live on the inside that should go out. A certain way we can talk to our family, our closest people, that we cannot talk to people that we don't know, that we have built that relationship with, right? We can't just stand on the corner with a bullhorn and say, you guys are all going to hell, you suck, right? That's just not going to be effective, right? So how do we be effective? How do we get people to take notice, and how do we respond? How do we live that different life? Because we've heard before, you've heard before, right? Finish this sentence. It's not just about what you say, but it's about, right, how you say it. It's not just about what you say, but even more how you say it, right? So how do we live? How do we say it? How do we live that life with people that are not on the inside? What do we do? Paul answers that question. How do we do it? And that's in Colossians chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. Paul says this. This is how we should live. Be wise, Paul says, in the way that you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. And right in point A, I say this, be wise. Paul says right out the gate, be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Be wise. Know when and when not, okay? We can say the things that we want to say. Know what to say and what not to say. Use some discernment. Ask for that discernment. Ask for that wisdom. You can't just say whatever you feel like whenever you feel like it. It just won't be effective, right? Be wise, Paul says. Then the second thing he says in B is be bold. He says take advantage of every opportunity. Make the most out of every opportunity, Paul says. Be courageous. Have courage. Be bold. When they ask why, answer. When they say, what is that I felt? Answer. When they say, what about your attitude? Answer. When they say, what about your kids? Answer. When they say, why do you come to this place every Sunday? Answer. When they say, tell me about that big Super Bowl of Christianity that's happening next weekend, tell them. Answer. Answer, answer, answer. Be bold. Have courage. Be opportunistic. Then he says, let your speech be seasoned with salt, with grace. So C, be gracious. Be gracious. Understand that none of us are better than anybody else, okay? Not the person speaking, not the person playing music, not the person sitting in the chair listening. Doesn't really matter. We're all on the same journey discovering what life with Jesus is all about, right? We're all on the same journey. We have different paths, all that kind of stuff. We have different things going on. So be gracious, be kind, be understanding, okay? Don't judge. We've gotten this reputation, Christians in the church, for being hypocritical, for being fake, for being bigots, for being condescending, for having an elitist mentality and thinking that we're better than other people and looking down, right? It's up to us to change that. Because I believe none of that is what the Bible teaches us to be. None of that is what we should be. None of that is what Paul says we should be, even here on the outline that you wrote down. It's up to us to change that, and that starts with the inside, and it will bleed outside. And I believe none of that is what life with Jesus is all about. None of it. So we have to take the opportunity to do it to take responsibility for ourselves and everyone under our house. Paul says, take the first 3 parts of the series, take the first 3 parts of the letter that I wrote about the God being revealed to you and reveal him out. Take the 3 and apply it. Remember that God, the God that you're knowing more, becoming more, and being more? Reveal him more. Remember, what's inside must come out, or who is inside? God. The Holy Spirit is inside. Let him come out. Tell you a story about a few weeks ago. I don't know how this night came to pass, but a few weeks ago, me and Hannah came home, and I don't know if we were cleaning out the bookshelf or something, but we end up grabbing my yearbook and looking through pictures, and oh goodness, high school yearbook, that was pre-braces and everything. It was not a good look. Let's say that. And I remember flipping through all the inserts and everything that people wrote, and I read a bunch of them. And I don't know if I felt like this 10 years ago when I first read it, but I remember reading it and just thinking, oh my goodness, God, you are so good. Because people were saying about me, believe it or not, that you are the most kind and genuine or happy or joyful person that I've met. And I know more about God and who this Jesus guy is. And you exemplify who Jesus was well. And you invited me to church, or you led me to the Lord, and all these different things. People were saying that about me. And I was just like, oh God, thank you. Thank you. What a fulfilling feeling. What a gratifying feeling would be. What a gratifying feeling that would be for people to say about you years later. That you had an effect on your community. Your neighbors came to impact because of you. Your neighbors, your community, come to small group, come to church, know who Jesus is. Because of you, there's so much hurt in our community. There's so much hurt going on this week. They need us. They need you. It starts with the outside. Reveal who God is on the inside to everyone under your roof, as a child, as a parent, as a father. And let's bring him outside. Because believe it, Christ is enough. I love this quote that I just read in a book last week called The Heart of a Great Pastor, written by a guy named H.B. London Jr. Listen to this quote. This is what he says. He says, "Shout it from the rooftops and leave it in the streets that nothing faintly compares to the Jesus way of life." Nothing faintly compares to the Jesus way of life. Nothing. So for us, let's reveal him. They'll love him. Trust me, we did. Let's show him. Let's show him to him, because how would they know who Jesus is unless we show him? How would they know who Jesus is unless we reveal him? How would they know who Jesus is unless we tell him, unless we share him? Let's reveal him to him. Reveal him to them, our neighbors, our community, and trust that he is enough. He's enough for me. He's enough for us, and he'll be enough for them. Let's reveal him inside of our homes and let that have a residual and ripple effect outside of our homes. Let's set that standard. Let's be that example, us in our houses and outside of our houses, because our community needs him so much. This is the incredible God that came. He lived, he died, he was buried, and he rose again for us, for me, for you. And we get to celebrate that every single weekend. Every single weekend. And even more, we get to celebrate that next weekend, which is basically the Super Bowl of Christianity, Resurrection Sunday, Easter. How important to our faith is next Sunday, okay? The Super Bowl. Do your neighbors know how important that is to you? Do they know about that? Have you invited them to that? Have you invited them to him next Sunday? Who are you inviting to hear the incredible message that our community needs to hear so bad right now? So for us, how would they know him unless we show him? And our big idea is this: others won't know Jesus is real until life with Jesus is revealed. Would you pray with me? Father, thank you so much for this month. Thank you so much for this series. Thank you so much for revealing yourself to us. And even more so, thank you for revealing yourself through us. I pray we take that challenge to grow more, to know more, to reveal more, God. And we never stop. Pray we know that you are enough for us and you are enough for everybody else. Our community needs you so much. Thank you for using us to show them to you. We love you and we thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.